You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.
Good Monday morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Interesting morning.
Yes. To say the least. But we're here. We're here. We made it. What's today? This is Monday, October 23rd.
Yeah, I got it right.
2017, a week before Halloween. Yes, good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Table for Five, where you, the listening and viewing audience, are always going to have a seat at our table and be our fifth guest. We hope that you will join us here live every Monday, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You know, I love my Pacific.
Your PST.
That's right.
PST.
That's right. We have a great show for you today, and I would love for people to get involved in this conversation. I don't know if people have been posting questions and stuff on Facebook, but if you haven't and you want to jump in on the conversation, the number to call us here this morning to get in on that is area code 818-570-5085. Again, 818-570-5085. So we've got an in-studio guest and we've got a long-distance on the phone guest, caller, and so we're like nationwide today.
No.
We're going coast to coast today.
No, where's Melissa calling from?
Melissa's calling from Tennessee.
Oh, nice.
Yes, she's calling from Nashville. And so before we get started, Anna, do you want to tell everyone about all of our social media stuff and links? And
absolutely.
All that
if
kind
you
of good
want
stuff?
to hit us, we're on Facebook Live right now. So if you want to throw us some questions regarding our topic today, that would be awesome. And also our website, www.table-4, 5, It's full of lots of information. All our shows are on there, archive shows, and all the links of our guests that are on our show. If you miss something and you want to find out, when is that event or what's that, you could just go to the gallery page, and under each show, there's a little link that has the website and all the information to the guests that's on our show. So you could do that.
Talked about that show, like today. The links to everyone's website will be in that
there.
section for you to find out more information about this amazing topic that we have today.
So, and also Instagram.
Yes.
Our Instagram and but more importantly, our website and Facebook, of course, and Twitter.
Yes. We tweet.
Twitter. Do we? Do we, Felicia?
Well, somebody does.
I don't know. So you can find out what's going on, but our website is probably the best one-stop shop of all information, all resource for us, and for our listening and viewing audience. So check that out.
Yes. And so today's show, I cannot even talk. Today's show topic, we're calling it Passion and Promise, Finding a Cure and Bringing Awareness. And our guests, we're calling them, they have passion projects. So we have our in-studio guest, everyone. They're returning, Linda B. Hall,
She's
CEO.
been, now you can see her. You've heard her voice.
Oh, that's right.
She's been on our show, and
but it hasn't been on video.
No, this is her
so this is her beautiful voice, or this is her beautiful face. To go with the voice.
Exactly. You've heard her voice.
Yes. So Linda B. Hall, CEO, founder of Inclusion Clubhouse. We're going to give you a little shout out right there. And then we've got on the phone, like I mentioned earlier, we've got Melissa Hogan, founder, president, Project Alive. Project Alive. Good morning, Melissa. Are you there?
Good morning. Yes, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm going to give you a little applause too. Everybody gets an applause here on the show.
Yes. So I find this. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
No, I find this show so amazing and moving. I mean, we've had Linda before talk about her Inclusion Clubhouse and how that all got started. Of course, because her daughter was born with cerebral palsy, correct? And so out of that was birthed all these different organizations and movements and fundraisers to bring awareness to the illness, to the families that are walking through that illness with typically able children and disabled, am I saying that right? And disabled kids. And so now looking at Melissa's project, again, something birthed out of her own experience, that she thought, you know what, I need to bring awareness, I need to bring attention, I need to raise funds towards. So I commend both of you as moms. I think we're warriors. I mean, I honestly think as moms, we become warriors for our kids and for other people's kids. So congratulations to both of you for rising up in a very challenging situations.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. But okay, so Melissa, you're on the phone, and Linda, you can chime in whenever you'd like. I just want to just kind of jump in and talk about Project Alive and how that came about. And I watched all the videos, which were, I suggest everybody to go to the website, projectalive.org.
Yes.
It's very simple, projectalive.org. So you can put a face to the disease and meet all these families. And but I was curious, I was trying to read and listen to all, okay, you could tell us how Project Alive came about, but what are the markers that you noticed in your child that made you go, oh, there's something wrong? And then if you can explain what Hunter's syndrome is.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to let Melissa ponder on that for a second. I was just going to jump into it. And we're talking about Project Alive. Melissa's project is about the Hunter syndrome. And so are we calling it a syndrome? Is it a disease? And I was just going to read a little bit of the clinical research that I found. It's a rare genetic disease that affects most boys between the ages of 2 and 5. And there's about 500 diagnosed cases in the U.S.
Yeah, that's on all,
That's kind of just the information. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then, Melissa, if you can speak about it and answer, if you want to answer Annette's questions about
Yes.
the markers and stuff.
So you're right, it's a genetic disease, and we didn't see any symptoms really when he was born or when he was young, and they start as little, seemingly unrelated symptoms. So a constant runny nose, lots of ear infections. They might stumble more than the average child. Sometimes their belly gets a little bit bigger. And so they're not really things that worry you very much until they start to progress. So because it's a genetic disease, that it's what's called a lysosomal storage disease. So this cellular waste builds up in their cells, and as it builds up more and more, the symptoms become more pronounced. So we didn't really see much wrong with our son. He had these little things, and actually he was diagnosed because my mom saw a television show about a boy with Hunter syndrome.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Had you ever heard of Hunter syndrome, Linda, at all?
Have you? No, I had never heard of it. I've never heard of it.
I've never heard of it.
Because it's so rare. And he would not have been diagnosed probably for another year or two because his symptoms get worse over time. And so she saw this TV show, and which was miraculous in itself. And by the end of the show, she was thinking, oh my gosh, he has this terrible, because it's a progressive and terminal disease with an average lifespan in the early teens. And she had to tell us that she thought he had that.
Right. So what I also found very fascinating is that it only affects boys. Do you know why?
Yes. So it's a mutation or deletion on the X chromosome, on the IDS gene. And so because girls have 2 X's, they generally have an X that has a working copy. And they're a carrier, and it makes up for the one that doesn't work. Now, there are a few cases worldwide of girls because their other X is not working for some reason. But in boys, if they have that mutation or deletion on their X chromosome, they can't make up for it, and then they have the disease.
Right, right. Now, how hard was it for you to get a diagnosis? So your mother is sitting there watching this show, and she's like, I think, this. Does she come to you and talk to you? Then do you all immediately go to the doctor? How hard is it? Do they believe you? Are there tests, blood tests that they can do? Is it once you kind of feel like, okay, this is something, is it easily diagnosed?
Well, she told me, and as soon as I went home and do what mothers do, I Googled it.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
by the time, so I ended up watching the episode of the TV show. It was a show called Mystery Diagnosis. I watched it on YouTube, and then read as much as I could read, and started making lists. And I came up with a list of 17 symptoms that he had that, like I said, seem unrelated until you see pictures. So these boys also have a look. They're called coarse facial features. So their nasal bridge is flattened, and they have larger lips and rosy cheeks sometimes. And so as soon as I saw these pictures and read this, I was almost certain that's what he had. And we went to the pediatrician. Actually, that's why she told me that week was he had his 2-year-old doctor's appointment. And we went through the whole appointment. I had 2 other children. So I had a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old at the time.
Ooh. Whoa.
So that was a little crazy. And we went through the whole appointment. And at the end, I said, I think he has this very rare genetic disease called Hunter syndrome. And she said, well, why would you think that? And I handed her the list of 17 symptoms, and one of them is that they have stiff joints. So I showed her his arms, and he couldn't straighten his arm out all the way. It was still partially bent. And that was the key thing where she said, oh, that is not normal. And I'm sure she went and Googled it too.
Wow, that's interesting.
And this is
go ahead. No, because I was going to say doctors are not familiar with the disease. Is it that rare?
Yes, it's that rare. And it's actually in a class of diseases called mucopolysaccharidosis. There's 9 types of that. And even that is in a larger class, like I said, lysosomal storage disorders, which is about 1 in 5,000. And our pediatrician still doesn't have another patient even in that larger class of diseases. They're all just incredibly rare.
Wow. Now, your son, his name is Case, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so where again does he fall? You said you have 3 kids. Is he the youngest?
He is the youngest.
The youngest. So he's the baby. So so you have little kids. You have 3 kids under the age of 5, and you're trying to figure out, you've got this information now, you've gone to your pediatrician. So then what's the next step? Does your pediatrician then hold your hand in this process? Is she interested, or are they interested in learning about this with you together? Do you go for genetic testing? Talk to us a little bit about that part of the journey, just like the jump starting of this new diagnosis then that you may be having on your hands.
Yes, so she referred us to a geneticist right away, and they took blood, they took urine, they did x-rays, because there's a very specific change in the vertebrae that happens with these diseases. And I said, look, I know he has Hunter syndrome. And he said, well, it could be, but I was pretty sure. And so you had to wait for those tests to come back, and actually his genetic typing, or to show the mutation, came back, and we had an appointment on my birthday that year. So that was a hard year.
How is he doing now? Because I was seeing that in the videos, he looked pretty healthy.
How old is he?
Yeah,
right now, currently.
Right. So he's 10 now, and he actually started losing. So for people who aren't familiar with the disease, it's, like I said, it's a progressive disease, and it's multi-system. So it's in the brain. In most cases, there's a small percentage that doesn't affect the brain, but in most cases, it's in the brain, it's in the heart, the airway, the liver and spleen, the joints, the bones, and so they all progressively get worse, and their cognitive abilities get worse, and until they become in an infantile state, and that's when they usually pass away in their early teens. So at about 3, he started losing his speech, And he was already delayed when he was diagnosed. He was just a little bit cognitively delayed. And then he started losing his speech, and they start to get very behavioral. So I describe it to people. I say, imagine a child with a combination of severe ADHD, a little bit of autism, a little bit of OCD, and sensory processing disorder. And that's a boy with Hunter syndrome.
Wow.
So he started to get very behaviorally intense and losing his speech and very challenging about 3. But then at about 3.5, he got into a clinical trial that puts a drug into his brain every month. And
is that the one that we see you in the video administering at home?
No, that's actually a different drug.
Oh,
so
okay.
we have
Sorry.
a very medically intense life.
Yeah.
He gets a weekly infusion that attempts to stabilize the physical effects of the disease.
Okay.
And so it keeps him walking longer. It tries to stabilize his heart, because normally they have progressive valve damage in the heart and the airway. And so it tries to help some of those physical symptoms. And,
the
and then
therapy that you're administering at home.
I'm sorry?
The therapy that you're administering at home, the once a week therapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do that every Sunday night, and it takes about 4 or 5 hours to do every week. And then he also gets a different formulation of that drug via a spinal tap into his spine to take up to his brain. He gets that every month. And so he's been doing that for about 6.5 years, and we call that our bridge. That's our we're biding time until we can reach a cure, because we needed something in order to get to that point where we could do the research to find a cure.
So the clinical trial that you're in is helping him. Is that what is helping? Is that how you're biding time?
Yes. Okay. So it seems to be stabilizing his brain. It's hard to say, because he still has special needs. He still has cognitive and behavioral challenges, and so he has to undergo a lot of testing to see whether he's stable. But we hope so. He's able to do certain things independently that he absolutely could not do were he not on that drug. But there's also risks in the fact of he could develop antibodies to it, and they have to get it every 4 weeks, and he goes under general anesthesia and a spinal tap. Otherwise, he would decline if he did not get that every 4 weeks.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the video on the website, projectalive.org, I appreciated the explanation. It was kind of like a layman's term, and it really kind of got to me. The whole garbage dump processing thing of how you have cells in your body that helps get rid of the excess stuff that we don't need, and then in these children they don't have that processing system. And then how it was also, you all also described it in the different videos, kind of likened it to Alzheimer's, which is something that I think is very relatable to the general population. They can understand that more in an elderly person. So if you take that concept and then turn around and apply it to a child, and just imagine how that is, I can't imagine your daily life. And do you have help outside of your home? Do you is it through insurance? Is it how do you manage? Because it just seems like such a big thing. So you have a child that's not only an infant, a toddler that's trying to learn things and process things, but then there is a point where they begin to digress, and then we know how Alzheimer's patients, behave, and then you've got, the same symptoms with a special needs child. So you have all of that combined into one.
It was really a challenge. The first year, I would say I probably cried every day because you forget. You actually go to bed crying, and then you wake up in the morning and you've forgotten that your child is dying. And then all of a sudden, you're awake for maybe 30 seconds, and it hits you again. Oh my gosh, my child's going to die. And that happens over and over. And it happens, when you're in the grocery store, they would say to me, oh, he's so big, he's probably going to play football. And you're just hit by a Mack truck. Do you say back to them, no, he's probably never going to play football. He's probably not going to live till he's 12. And, you know, it just hits you over and over and over again. And, you know, that's just the processing of it. But then the logistics of, you know, that first year we were in the hospital over and over. And we also, like I said, we had this infusion. And back then we were in the hospital every week. So you were in the hospital full day week. You had 10 specialists, 3 therapists. He was getting infections and it was, and he was so behavioral at the time that we had a CNA in our house 5 days a week. So we had gated off all the rooms of our house because he was so dangerous. We had a CNA help us every evening just so I could even pay attention to my other kids.
Right.
And it was very, very hard. And just processing. I think I was totally okay with having a child with special needs. I just look at it as different needs. You know, there's just beauty in difference. But the hard part for me was someone saying, and he's going to lose all of that, and then he's going to die. And that was what I struggled with so much.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me really very much in all the videos is every parent said that they were pre-mourning. Like every day they pre-mourned. And I thought that how do you manage that? And then you have to be present for your other kids.
Children.
So that, that is amazing to witness the bravery in these parents say, we're going to celebrate his birthday. We're going to try to create normalcy as normalcy.
And do as many things as possible. I saw some of the other videos, and the one, a little boy, I think his name was Finn. The mother was saying, like, you want to push your child to learn as much as they can, because you don't know when they're going to lose that. And I thought back to, being a new parent myself, and like, I remember that, like, okay, I want you to learn this, I want you to learn, but then that as an extra layer that you're like adding on top of that, like, no, I really want you to experience this, because I don't know when. So how has your family dealt with it, and how have the other children dealt with it? First of all, I want to back up a little bit, and I want to say you have a beautiful family. All of the families that were on the website, you can go to the website and look at the different videos of a few
and
of
donate,
the families.
which is the goal, is to donate.
Yes, and we'll get to talk about that in a second, because that's like huge. But I want to say bravo to all of them for putting your stories out there. But just as your if you want to speak to your family dynamic, just in and of itself, is your husband? I saw your husband is on the video. Is he like a motivational speaker, or like how do you guys deal with it as parents, and then as parents raising, two other children? And I think it really spoke to me, because I've got boys too, so I was just like,
boys.
It just like
3 boys
stuck me right in the gut and the heart and everything. So.
As a family, I mean, it's been a lot of transition. So you're right. My husband is a speaker. He speaks on money and leadership with the Dave Ramsey team, and so he travels a lot. And our other 2 boys, when they were young, they didn't really understand that there was anything different. Obviously, they were only 3 and 4, and I would sit there and cry, and they would say, "Mommy, why are you crying?" And so you're bounced back and forth between mourning and living with these kids that need you, but they've never really known, obviously, anything other than this.
Right.
They don't remember life before Hunter syndrome, or even life before the clinical trial that he got in. But they started meeting other kids with this disease and with similar diseases. And that's where I feel like they learned a context for it. It's a hard life for kids to know other children who pass away and to know them deeply. But that's what we've chosen, is to really open up to all these other families, and to open up to these kids, to let our kids love them and be loved. And the hard part about that is when you pick them up from school, and then you have to come home and say, your friend, so-and-so passed away today. And, that's happened several times, kids that they've seen year after year, either at conferences, we have disease conferences, or there's families who we've, met on vacation. And so they've known some of these kids, and then have had to, and to know that their brother is in very nebulous state of this is what's supposed to happen, but then he's in this clinical trial, so we don't really know, and then we're trying to fund a cure, and it's living in the tension of not knowing.
So let's talk about that really quickly. The projectalive.org is a foundation to raise funds to continue the clinical therapy, to do research, or to help families that can't do all the medical needs. How is it really, what's the gear towards it?
Right. So I started Project Alive with 3 other moms. This is really was born out of a sisterhood in the fact that we saw that a cure was possible. The 4 of us saw that was possible, and we wanted to save as our own kids, but then as many kids as we could. And so we saw that, hey, gene therapy, which is what we're funding, is a potential cure for single genetic diseases like Hunter syndrome. And we knew that it would take money. So we reached out to, we actually evaluated all the research that was going on in our space, and then reached out to these researchers and said, hey, if we could get this money raised, could you start this research in Hunter syndrome and bring it to a clinical trial? And so we organized and helped motivate our community, and people were very passionate, when it's your child. And so we've been funding this research in the lab for 5 years. And now so it's actually ready to go into a clinical trial in humans if we can fund it.
And that's what the GoFundMe project or page is directly about, is just for that, for the therapies that you guys have already done the research for, to actually go to clinical trial. And I have to say, when people go on the GoFundMe, it's, I believe your goal is 2.5 million. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's what it actually costs.
Right.
We've got quotes out and know what it costs. It costs 1.4 million to make the gene therapy vector to put into approximately 9 kids, and then it'll be a little over $1 million approximately to fund the clinical trial to treat them.
But I don't want people to gasp at that number, $2.5 million. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. To me, I don't feel like it's, oh my God, it's $2 million. It's so unattainable in this nation of very wealthy people. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to challenge people, like, come on, to save people's lives is only $2.5 million. We need to stop. Yeah. Just stop it right here. And from this, information that I read about your project is, it's because the drug companies don't want to invest the money because they don't feel like there is a profitability, because it's not in their eyes, it's not going to save that many people. Like, there's not that many people affected. I think some of the other research, was it about 200,000 people cases worldwide? Is that what it is? There was a number 200,000. I don't know why that stuck in my head. Is that correct?
There's approximately 2,000 only worldwide of Hunter syndrome.
2,000.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, you know what? That's only 2,000 people. So we're not going to, even though it's only $2 million.
So I have a quick question, something you just said, because I don't want to misunderstand. The clinical trial is only 9, did you say 9 kids can participate?
Yes, so that would be, you have to do a phase 1 trial first that looks at safety. And so that would only be about 9 kids initially. Okay. And our son wouldn't actually be one of those 9. And, that's how I've tried to really explain to people, look, we are really doing something that is good for the community. And this is really, I feel very much that I'm stewarding something that is for the long-term benefit of families. My son is not going to be eligible to be one of those 9 kids. And I just decided, I gave up my career, and this is what I'm doing. Wow.
And why wouldn't he be eligible? Because of his age?
Because he's been in this other trial, so you can't be in 2 trials.
I see.
And even though we hope this to be a long term, the gene therapy to be the best option, we can't put him into 2 things.
All right, so I want to read a couple of messages you're getting on Facebook that I thought are really cool, so we can leave on an up. Melissa, this is Danielle Vendiper. Sorry, Daniela. Melissa, you're amazing. Our boys, our community, and our fellow hunter mums are so lucky to have you. Very proud to call you a good friend. And Kim Stevens said, love you, Melissa Hogan. Thank you for all you do for our boys. And Amber Marie Snow, Melissa, so amazing. Thank you so much for your dedication to our boys. So congratulations to doing something outside.
Absolutely.
Even though it's living in your home, you are affecting so many other families. And that's so honorable of you and your family to do that.
Yeah.
And we're honored that you called in.
Yes.
And we want to make sure everybody goes to projectalive.org.
Yes.
This is something that's doable. It's not, 100 million. It's so doable. And you will change the lives of thousands of boys and thousands of families.
Mm-hmm.
And we will keep, we'll keep following up the story and see how it's going and check in and make sure that everybody's getting what they need, and we'll keep it alive. We'll just keep promoting it and make sure that folks know to go to projectalive.org. Every penny counts. $5, $10, $100. Just think about what you can do without for a day, and just put it towards that.
And I think the kind of end goal though is to have a cure. Like, do you feel like if this clinical trial works, that this could actually be a cure for this disease? Is that how I understand it? Yes.
And if I could just say too,
Sure.
the origin of the name Project Alive is so near and dear to me, because it came out of a photo that my son brought home from kindergarten. So this was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And it was a sign that said, I want, when I grow up, and he was holding a little chalkboard and it said fireman. And I looked at that photo and I said, gosh, what do you mean he wants to be a fireman? I just want him to be alive, to grow up. And that was our first video that we did a couple years ago, explaining to people, look, kids everywhere, they want to be a doctor, they want to be a teacher, there's lots of things, but our kids just want to be alive. And if people want to really have an impact on families, a very tangible impact on people, and this is what we've told people, from $2 allowance to $200,000 or an incredible donor, if they had it all, this actually will make an impact on people in the long term and save kids.
And also too, I just want to mention too that the organization Project Alive is a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit out there. So people, it is a tax deductible donation. Just like
absolutely
want to put that out there, because everybody's looking for something in return.
It's the end of the year. Everybody's charitable at the end of the year.
Yes.
So we hope that you take time to just look at, if you heard something here that moved your heart, just go on projectalive.org and give and make it, a family project. Make it, your kids need to see other kids. You have to put faces to illnesses or charitable donations, so they can understand where this is going to, and they can relate. But Melissa Hogan, thank you so much for calling in. We are honored to have you. We're going to be praying for your family and your son, and for this money to be raised for all the kids that will benefit from it. I think it's amazing work that your family is doing. Congratulations.
And can I say something?
Yes. I didn't know if you had to go, Melissa, if you wanted to stay on the line. We're very flexible here. So
stay.
Yeah. So if you want to continue our conversation, so go ahead, Linda.
I just want to say you're amazing, and I know, like, as a mom of a child with special needs, that one thing that we don't want is for people to pity us, or feel bad. And like, I'm sitting here and I'm holding back the tears, and I'm like, God, it's one of those things that, like, we all think we have it bad until we hear someone else's story. So thank you so much for sharing, because I think that in general is so important for other people to hear that, like, no matter what we're going through in our day, there is always someone else who's fighting a bigger battle. And like, you're immensely strong. Like, I don't know how I'd get out of bed if I,
well, we could sit there and say the same thing about you,
but it's different. It's different. I can relate with the I just want my kid to be alive. And, I have a kid, my kid's situation is different. She is alive and she's going to be alive. She'll probably outlive me. And my thing is I wish that I could help her to be able to be or know what it is that she would want to be when she grows up, because she can't communicate that with us or tell us, what her hopes and dreams are. We can only hope and dream for her. And hope that she enjoys what we what we do with
what your dreams are.
Right, exactly, exactly. And so, just to want my kid to be alive, I can't imagine. But I do think that it is important that you continue to make the most of every single moment you have with them, and make them feel as normal as possible, even though they know that it's going to come to an end at some point, unless a miracle happens and we find a cure before.
We are going to find a cure. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yes.
We are doing this.
Yes,
it's going to happen.
Find a cure.
It is going to happen.
And I think that we all pull together and raising the money for the trials and whatnot, and moving forward after that, hopefully, like you said, your son may not qualify for the trial, but then if it works and the trials succeed, then we have a cure, and hopefully nothing happens within. And that's the thing, is that we hold on to hope that within that it happens fast enough so that our kids can experience the gains from our work, and like with me and wanting to build Inclusion Clubhouse, I keep saying, like, oh my God, because my goal is that long term it becomes a transitional center where our kids outgrow school, but there's a place for them to work and continue to grow and have a community that supports them and will uplift them. And I'm like, I have 2 years. Oh my God, I have 2 years to get this.
You're like, my feet are to the fire. So let's back up a little bit and go back and tell a little bit about your story, because it's been a minute since you've been on here. And so some of our viewers now might not recognize you or remember your story. So you founded Inclusion Clubhouse, and tell us what Inclusion Clubhouse means, what it means to you, and what it was birthed out of.
Well, my goal for Inclusion Clubhouse is to open up a recreational center for families of those with special needs. And the goal of the center is really inclusion. And it's about teaching typical kids how to interact with kids with special needs and catering to the child that is the least able. So like a child who is tube fed or is on a trach, is in a wheelchair, who literally depends on someone else for everything. To create a space where it's sensory, where whether they're in a wheelchair, laying down, there's something going on that they can experience.
There's something for them.
There's something for them. But at the same time, it's also a space where there's things for typical kids to do and higher functioning kids. So things like dance classes, music, physical activity, like adaptive sports. So adaptive PE is kind of what they do in special education. It's like they adapt the different activities so that each child can participate. And so we'd have adaptive sports, adaptive basketball, soccer, things that typical kids would enjoy doing, but special to those with special needs. But we want the typical kids involved so that they learn how to interact with each other.
Because families, like yours and Melissa's, you have kids with
we have typical kids, and then we have those who have
and you don't
who are differently able.
You don't want those children to feel lost either, because I mean sometimes we're also focused on this child with the special needs that we kind of, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm going to be candid, you forget about the other kids, or they have to take a back seat. And it's hard when we're always doing something for my little sister or my little brother or my older sister that has these issues. And so I think what I love about your concept is that you're bringing everybody together. This is a place where everyone can come in the same space, and there's something for everyone and get support, from the siblings of other siblings, and like I'm not the only one community. Going. Yes,
building that community, because like I tend to tell people, it's my kids have lots of friends. It's having friends who understand their day to day. Like my daughter shares a room with her older sister, and Janai started having seizures, I want to say when she was about 10, 11, and Jordan was just born, and Jada was maybe 2. And I want to say from the age of 4 or 5, Jada's always been the one that wakes up in the middle of the night and is like, mommy, you know, Janai's having a seizure. Or now she's going to be 11 on Thursday. Oh my goodness. Now, now she actually knows that she needs to turn her sister over and make sure there's nothing, you know, obstructing her airway. And that's not typical. Like that's not something that most
every
kids
11-year-old knows how to do or has
or experience.
Right.
You know, I think that even till this day, when I see her having like a grand mal seizure, it still freaks me out. Like I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, and my hands out, and I'm like worried.
Right.
Yeah.
So for a kid to have to deal with that, you know, not everyone can relate, and us as parents, I think that often we feel alone in our feelings and like, you know, I remember one thing that my mom had said to me, and my husband was like, I can't believe she said that. But as a parent, you know, we never, like, you never want to see your kid go first. Like, you know, that's gut wrenching. You know, you have your kids and you expect that they outlive you.
Right.
But one thing my mom had said is she feels it's different with parents of those with special needs, because what happens if you go first and your child is completely 100 to 200% dependent on you, and they can't do anything for themselves, and you've done everything for them their whole entire life, and then one day
it brings a whole other layer onto it.
And then one day you're gone. You know, so I was just like, wow, that's really, I never thought of that. You know, my husband's like, no way, like, you know, she's gonna outlive us. And I'm like, yeah, great, but what happens like when we're gone? Who's gonna take care of her? Like, who can we entrust? Like, and that's why for me, like, another reason why, like, the whole Inclusion Clubhouse and everything, it's like we as parents, I feel like come, like, in our heads, we're like, oh my God, there's all these things that we need for our kids that doesn't exist.
Right.
And people are like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Why doesn't it exist? And honestly, it's because it takes a parent going through it.
Right. To bring awareness, to bring, this is, I mean, what is that phrase? Necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, and it's birthed out of a need. It's birthed out of a need to bring awareness to a disease, a syndrome that no one knows about. And, you know, that we don't have. And how is it that we don't have in this city of Los Angeles? I mean, I know Melissa's calling us from Nashville. It's a pretty big city too. And I don't know, I'd ask you if you have anything similar, you know, in your area. Why don't we have something like this that is, you know, made up and inclusive for all these different people?
I don't know. I know that, you know, like when I think of Inclusion Clubhouse, I think of like the YMCA. It's kind of like that feel, a place where the whole family can come, parents can work out, do their thing. There's after school activities for the kids. And I've gone, you know, Girls and Boys Club, YMCAs and things like that, and they're just not accessible or adaptable to all the different needs of a family with a child that is in a wheelchair, but not just in a wheelchair, because there is, to an extent, adaptability and accessibility. But to a child who is in a diaper, who can't feed themselves, who needs like a one-on-one at all times.
Right.
You know, and so the goal is to create a space that really would give the parent that support. Like, if you have to do things where you can feel safe leaving your child for a few hours. Right now, like, after school is, there really isn't anything. There's very little like after school activities. When I think of after school, I think, like, man, my kids are in basketball, soccer, dance. You know, there's so much for the other kids to do. And for me, what I found was that Janai was getting lost, because as the typical kids started to get older and involved in activities, like, she was always on the sidelines watching, and she would be yelling and screaming because she wants to be a part of it, but she couldn't. And so for me, that's why it's important that these kids have just as access to just as many activities as the typical kids. Granted, they have to be adapted and made a little different, but why isn't there something for everyone?
And we can also speak to it. People might say, okay, well, you can, you know, have a caregiver, or you can, you know, have someone come in your home. But I think that's different, because kids, whether they're special needs in a wheelchair or not, they're still kids, and they still want that interaction. They still want to be. So even if they're not responsive, I think there's something to be said about them still being in an environment where they're around their peers and still having, the stimulation as to what they can handle for it. I want to back up a little bit though and talk about your kids and talk about Janai. So is she your oldest? Like how are your
Janai is my oldest, and she's 19. God, I can't believe she's going to be 20 this year, next year. Oh my God. She's 19. Jada is going to be 11 on Thursday. Jordan is 9, and Julian, the baby, will be 2 in December.
So to say the least, you have like 2 handful.
Yeah,
two
she
playful.
has an array.
Yeah, and a wide range.
Wow. So we want to get to, before we run out of time, the event that you're working on. It's coming up
Sunday.
This Sunday. Yes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit. It's called Charity
Karaoke Battle.
Charity
Kids
Karaoke
Edition.
Battle. Right.
So,
But just to folks to know, you can go to charityKaraokeBattle.com if you want to buy tickets to attend. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Can you also get tickets through Inclusion Clubhouse's website?
You can. It will
Yes.
take you to the
To
karaoke.
that.
to Charity Karaoke.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
both of them. Well, we'll put both of them on the website.
inclusionclubhouse.org. Yes.
Yes.
And that you could also learn more about the organization and what we're doing. And so charity, this month is Down Syndrome Awareness Month.
Yes.
And so to help raise awareness, we've had on Instagram, we've had celebrities post facts about Down syndrome and promote the event, as well as I've been posting, and we've challenged kids to upload photos of them singing,
awesome.
so that for a chance to perform live on Sunday. We have Victoria Vida from Project MC Squared on Netflix hosting. My husband Pooch Hall from Showtime's Ray Donovan will be judging. Also Jason Canella. So we've got some celebrities lined up, and it's all about the kids this time though. In March for Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, we did the celebrity version. Everything
cute.
was celebrities. They sang, they hosted, they judged. This time it's all about the kids. So we're going to have kids with special needs as well as typical kids performing on stage. Some will be together, some alone. It should be really, really cute. We've gotten some great submissions. And it's taking place at my daughter's school, Leachman Career and Transition Center in Reseda.
This is Janai's school.
This is Janai's school. And the reason for that is
Shout out to them.
Thank you. Yes, they are amazing. And I really wanted to help raise awareness for the school, because a lot of times people don't know what's available to our kids with special needs.
Okay.
She graduated from Grant High School 2 years ago, and I was just like, I could have kept her at Grant until the age of 22, because that's when they age out of high school. That's what they call it, aging out. Technically, like in college, you'd be like 20. Like I graduated at 22, and so you're done with school at 22. And I was like, God, I liked her teacher at Grant, and I was like comfortable, and I was like, all right, I'll just keep her here. But then right before graduation, it was a new teacher, everything changed. And I was like, okay, I've got to figure something out. And someone suggested Leachman, and I went there and I took a tour. My husband and I took a tour, and we were just amazed at the different programs offered there. They've got it's basically career and transition, so they teach them life skills to job skills so that they can go out and work. They have everything from a auto detailing shop, so they teach the kids how to clean cars, and they go out into the community and they clean cars. They have a culinary arts class, so they have like a little, they have their cafeteria, and they bake and they sell things. They have drama.
Wow.
Her first year, her homeroom was ice cream making. So Janai needs assistance for everything, and so finding ways to get her involved is really difficult. And so she can't measure ingredients. She doesn't know how to do any of that. So the other kids would do that based on their ability. And so her job was just to activate a switch, which would turn on the blender to make the ice cream. And I mean, she loved it. But what I loved was the fact that they could find the simplest thing to include her.
That's awesome.
And that, I was like, okay, that's great. This year she's in laundry services. I saw pictures. I was like, oh, look, you're delivering. Oh my God, you're folding laundry? You're taking laundry out of the dryer? I was like, does that mean you could do laundry at home? When I say the side eye, oh, Lord, she was like, woman. I was
no.
Right?
Amazing how much you can tell just from a look.
Oh my God, it was crazy. But they have, this year they just started a film production strand.
Wow.
They have
And is this just a school then for special needs?
It is.
Just,
it's
okay.
just special needs, which is a reason why I was kind of like iffy, because at Grant, it's typical kids. She's at a regular high school in a special day class.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like she's more motivated by watching others. But the mix at Leachman was really good. Like, she wasn't in a class where none of the kids were able. Do you know what I mean? It was a mix of higher functioning, lower functioning. So for me, I was cool with that. And the fact that they had so many different strands and they test the kids in different classes to see what they like best, because I'm like, how are you going to know what my kid likes?
Right.
How are we going to figure out what she's good at? And you know, each year they rotate, so they get to try. She did drama last year and she loved it, just being a part. You know, I'd go see her performances and they'd find a way, you know, whether it was ringing a bell at a certain time, or like her only word is yeah, and so they included that, and they made that her
awesome.
line, and she would have to come in. You know, they'd be like, okay, Janai, that's you. And she'd be like, yeah, you know, for whatever that segment was. And I want people to see how these kids are like in their element, right? You know, and you came to prom, and they're very
amazing. Like
when they feel comfortable and safe and secure, they shine. And I think it's the same way with all kids. Yeah, you know, if you give them that encouragement and that support, and you make them feel comfortable, they're going to shine. Yeah. And I think people need to see that. I think the community needs to see them in their element. I asked the principal, like, hey, you know, film production, we do event planning, the organization, how can we have the kids intern? Because kids at this stage, they're interning at like when they're in college, they're interning so that they have jobs. I was like, I would love to take these kids and have them work play dates or
the higher functioning,
the events, and the lower functioning can just participate, and be a part of the events, and get the social aspect of it by being a part of the group. And the higher functioning can actually get jobs. You know, the film production. Hey, you can come and record our events, and then we'll work on editing and work on different aspects.
Teaching a skill.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, what time? You're in the LA area, obviously. Yes. This is for the Los Angeles listeners and viewing audience. What time does it start? From what to what?
The show doors open at 2, so 2 to 5. We're also selling VIP tickets for like a luncheon before the event starts. So from like 1 to 2, we'll have like a VIP luncheon with the celebrities and
and where is that going to be? Is that going to be at the school?
At the school.
Okay, nice.
Yep, at the school.
Fun.
We have a caterer doing that, and hopefully some of the kids will be helping with that as well. Yes. I'm really trying to make it like kid friendly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just, you know,
that's awesome.
Family friendly.
Yes,
everybody.
Family friendly. A lot of fun. It should be a blast. I mean, the kids make it amazing. Yeah. And just the smiles on their faces and how excited and happy they are is it's completely worth it. But the event general admission is $20. Yeah. And
can they buy tickets at the door?
They can.
Not recommended.
But yeah, I prefer
get your tickets now.
Exactly.
Go on the website
now.
We
will have food that does include, you know, some food and drinks, and so I'd like to have a good count, so I make sure I have enough for everyone. And $20,
Bring the whole family.
Yeah, $10 for kids, students.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay. So adults are 20, kids are 10. Can we see how much the VIP?
The VIP is 50, so that's more of like our fundraising.
That's a bargain, guys. You're going to get lunch.
Are you still taking kids to audition, or is that closed? Like to participate in the singing?
We just closed. Okay. But I mean, we could sneak in a few more today. I can make an exception
because everyone that's watching and listening now.
Because I'm, putting it out there today. We could allow for a few more registrations today. Yeah. I don't think we're capped out just yet.
Yeah. So get that audition in, guys.
And then we'll start announcing winners.
Okay,
tomorrow.
now are these like good singers? Because my sons were like, yeah, I'm not a great singer.
Well, it's karaoke, so it's not necessarily about being good.
But listen, there's some karaoke, and then there's my karaoke, which is like, woo, we're gonna have a fun time, and I'm gonna try to sing this song. And then there's like some people who are serious about their karaoke.
Well,
yes,
it's
I'm not going to karaoke with anybody who can't sing.
No, it's all about fun because you have to keep in mind that we will have kids.
Oh no, with kids it's different. It's different.
Yeah.
But it's about having fun, and it's about creativity and having a great time, and and also we will have a lot of kids volunteering. So if any of the kids feel shy about getting on stage, there'll be other kids that can join them and help them, and we'll be there, and anyone can jump in.
Wow. And how long is the event going to last, do you think, or like what is the end time?
5. So it'll be so we have like 2 to 5. Like the show will probably be like 2 hours, so from like 2:30 to 4:30, and like around 4:30, 4:45 we'll start doing awards, like the winner is.
Oh my gosh! So you have first, second, third place
trophies.
Oh my word!
And yes, we will be handing out trophies.
So like always, we run out of time.
I know.
Melissa, thank you for hanging on the phone again.
Thank you for being amazing.
Yeah, organization projectalive.org. Projectalive.org. You can go there and donate and see all the wonderful videos, all the information that's there. And for Linda's event this Sunday, it's karaoke. Karaoke. I just made up a word.
I like that.
Karaoke. I think that needs to be in the Webster Dictionary.
Karaoke.
And we can say real quick, you're raising funds for the Inclusion Clubhouse, the building of the Inclusion Clubhouse. So your ticket, the event, is raising money to get Inclusion Clubhouse built. We need Inclusion Clubhouse built, and we need to find a cure. So those are the 2 things
you
for
got
today.
Homework, people.
Homework. Check those off of your list. After you donate, then you can feel good about yourself and go on about your week.
So charityKaraokeBattle.com, or you can go to inclusionclubhouse.org to find out more information about what she's doing, what she's up to, and how that's moving along. But like always, we've run out of time. So Melissa Hogan, thank you so much. We'll be praying for your family.
Thank you.
Linda will continue to pray for you and your
my crazy life.
Your life. Yes. These warrior moms. Thank you for standing up for the ones that can't. Thank you so much. We hope you've been informed, educated, and entertained. Catch us next Monday live here on LA Talk Radio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.
It went off before.